Hey, dude, you want to play a game of League?
I don't know, man.
Dude, look at all this new stuff that's been out since you last played. It'll be fun, trust me.
Uh, all right, fine, let's go. How bad can one game be? Ugh, I hate this game. Hey, I'm John, and growing up, I used to love playing MOBAs. I first got introduced to them in the late 2000s through a Warcraft 3 custom game called Dota All-Stars. It was just a fan-made game at the time, but it had all the common hallmarks that you expect from a MOBA: lanes, creeps, farming, and a big set of heroes. And the graphics, while admittedly I think aged well, doesn't really hold up to any modern game. Nowadays, it's the bare minimum. But back then, I'd never seen anything like this. Granted, young me wasn't too good at this, but I had a hell of a time playing. And at that time, it was something completely new to me. Little did I know that years down the line, it'd be one of the games I enjoy the most. 2 years later, when I had just entered high school, there was a new game that was taking my school by storm, called League of Legends. Now, instead of it being a custom map attached to an 8-year-old game at that point, it was a completely new and dedicated game for this genre. Although Dota was fairly popular among the Warcraft 3 community, at this time no one really knew what MOBAs were, and it was still something niche, but let me tell you, boy was it fun to play. I remember coming back from school every day right on time to jump on League to play with my friends for a couple hours, talking to each other using Skype, trying out new builds, and for the first time in my life, playing with some of my friends. Man, I couldn't count the number of times I goofed around in our games, messing around with stuff like old AP Silent or Deathfire's Grasp Warwick. The genre was just getting started. Little did I know what would come next. That's right, folks, in 2012 I received an invite to play Dota 2 from my friend, and I jumped on the opportunity to play it. After seeing how successful League was, I couldn't wait to play one of my childhood classics remastered by a AAA studio like Valve. And it was everything I had expected and more. See, Dota 2 was never a full-on port of the original Warcraft 3 game at the start, but rather it had the base mechanics and an initial roster of 24 heroes out of the roughly 100 plus that Dota 1 had at the time. It was during this time we would get massive updates in quick succession. It felt like that every other week we would be getting a new hero, and it was so exciting reading the patches hearing that they ported another hero into this game. It felt like that both games were labors of love, and with how often they were getting updated, it never felt boring playing either of them. The genre was on a roll, and with how successful League and Dota were, it didn't take long for other publishers to take notice. By around 2015, MOBAs were already one of the most popular genres, and companies like Blizzard and Hi-Rez Studios would come out with their own take on the genre, being Smite, a bastard child between a third-person shooter and a MOBA, and HOTS, which is a more casual team-based one that features a lot of beloved Blizzard characters, similar to Smash. And out of these two, it was really HOTS that could really compete with the likes of Dota and League. So, here we are, the three giants, all competing with one another: League of Legends, Dota 2, and HOTS. But to this day, it's clear that it really was just League and Dota that emerged as the frontrunners, and I'm gonna tell you what made these games so great. It was damn fun to play these games, and I loved it playing early on. I think the fact that it was a multiplayer game made these games really appealing for the type of people that like to be social while playing. And with how popular voice from apps were starting to become, it was great to just ask a couple friends if they want to hop on and play a few matches. The best part is that you can play these games however you wanted to. Because of how much coordination matters in these type of games, working together and landing those sweet combos was really satisfying to pull off. And on the opposite light, there's nothing as fun as just chilling with some friends and goofing around. But it wasn't all just fun in games. I still remember the times I was playing Clash with some of my friends, trying to get that perfect 3-0. Being in a Discord call with a couple of friends while a team fight was happening, giving detailed calls followed by some banter afterwards that blows any corporate team building exercise out of the water. I remember one time in particular, we were all trying to play a comp with heroes in Dota that all had global ultimates, trying to snipe someone across the map. And it's moments like these that I took for granted back then. Because while other games were multiplayer, I never got the same social atmosphere I got from MOBAs, and it's something I still miss to this day. It's an understatement to say that these games are competitive. Talk to anybody about this game and you'll quickly find yourself bonding over how bad of an experience ranked is. Still, despite that, the feeling of competition you get from a ranked match is quite exciting. Edging out a win from a back and forth game, just to see that sweet arbitrary meta or number change is exhilarating. Now, despite that, I love queuing up with some of my friends, but solo ranking was how I played through most of my games. And well, from the first, eventually I, like many others, hit a plateau with how good I was becoming. I felt like I was stuck at the rank, and eventually it felt like it was more of a chore to play the game rather than it being fun. But I wasn't about to just stop at my measly rank of Divine, probably Plat in League. I wanted to go for Immortal, so I knew I had to get better. And eventually I wanted to take this seriously. So I started doing things outside of just playing the game. I started watching streamers play, watching videos on how to play certain heroes. Hell, I even watched my own replays on how to get better. And the payoff was pretty worth it. I quickly saw myself get better at this game, and after about 2 months, I hit Immortal. After all of that, reaching what is probably the equivalent of Masters in League. Now, don't get me wrong, compared to the pros, that was absolutely nothing. But for an average person playing this as a hobby, I was ecstatic. I'll never forget the joys of reaching and grinding for something that I wanted so badly. To show off that, yeah, I guess I have some proof that I'm kinda decent in this game. And that's the type of feeling that kept me wanting to play it more and more. The pursuit of wanting to get better and just winning. And even as time passed on and I quickly lost interest in the game and real life started taking over, it's still an accomplishment that I hold dear to my heart. And that's what I wanted to achieve. And I knew I had to just work for it. And that's what some of these games have really taught me. If you just want something, you have to work for it. Now, we can't talk about the competitiveness of MOBAs at all without at least briefly mentioning esports. To me, MOBAs were the genre that carried esports from relatively unknown and small events to being hosted on cable television. Don't get me wrong, the early days of StarCraft with both Brood Wars and Wings of Liberty were popular, but I would really argue that there was nothing that really catapulted esports into mainstream like MOBA. Despite being the same genre, both Dota 2 and League took different approaches to esports in the early days. One featuring an organized circuit with weekly matches, and the other featuring more qualifiable international tournaments. Now, I could go on and on about the ups and downs with each format, but I think one thing they did have in common was an annual Worlds Final that was meant to be the culmination of the year's matches. I remember watching these people play, cheering and rooting for teams similar to any other traditional sport. But I'd argue it's even a bit different, because not only were their games exciting to watch, it also inspired plenty of other people to hop on and play a few matches afterwards themselves as well. And the game that I played the most, Dota, had, because of how big the prize pool was at the international level, made the storylines and matches all that much more exciting to watch. And even as I find myself no longer playing the game, I still find myself every now and then to be watching a match and hopping on to play a game myself. Now, what kept people coming back was that these games always felt fresh playing. I would argue that MOBAs were also the game to really popularize the freemium and live services model. You see, up until that point, most games were still played and bought at a retail price. After you bought it, the developers were there to fix a few bugs, but really they were hopping off to work on whatever next project they were doing. There were expansions to these games, but they always felt something that was a bit detached and separate. League and Dota, true, were not some of the first games to be free to play, but they were some of the most popular games to receive huge periodic and live updates. I think it's easy to say that these games from the 2012 versions are nothing alike compared to the 2023 versions in pretty much all but name. And at this time, it was new and fresh. Whenever a new season hit or a big patch released, it was amazing to see that I could both play this game that I already knew and loved, but also that there was this feeling of novelty that comes with it. And patches that introduced large changes like talents in Dota 2 or the Dragon Soul in League, things that seem so fundamental now, which is changes that were tacked on much later on that can give you an idea of just how much these games have evolved. Look, I get a lot of modern games are like this, and if anything we should feel spoiled that developers have to keep creating these incrementally bigger updates in order to keep our attention. But I'm thankful for all the changes that all these games have to went through, because it just shows to me that these were, at one point in time, more than just a product. That they were a labor of love that someone cared and made for. But no matter what has happened to this genre and all the innovations that it has created, defining the multiplayer live service genre it is today, it still holds a special place to my heart. And even as both the game and I change, to me, I'll never forget all the memories that games like these have allowed me to create with some of my friends. It doesn't matter if you started playing this because you like the genre, or you only did it because your friend told you so. I think we can appreciate just how much it has given to us. From its humble origins to once being the apex of the industry, I just want to say thanks for everything.